Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast, and we're live, of course. Joining me is Mr. Ronaldo Brown. How are we doing?
I'm doing well.
Good, glad to hear it. And also Mr. Joe Smith. How are we doing, Joe?
I'm a bit gutted, to be honest.
Well, he said he's doing well, so he was quite chirpy,
great.
which surprised me. You're not so well, obviously, after the back of England getting knocked out of the Euros in the final on penalties to Italy. We will talk about that. We'll talk about Manchester United players as well that are involved in that game, and other players when it comes to the Euros, other Manchester United players who featured in what's been a bit of a mixed bag, but on the whole a positive, I feel, tournament for Manchester United players.
Losing in the final is still considered being knocked out?
I thought that when I said it. I thought, that's...
I guess
it doesn't
it
seem
is
right because you've gone all the way. Once you go to the final, can you be knocked out? Is that right?
It is knocked out because at the end of the day, not just in club, but international level, in any kind of cup competition, it's last man standing. So if you're last man standing, which is Italy, and you're in the final, you've been knocked out. But you've just been the last to be knocked out.
So they've progressed to the winners area.
But that's when like they've only gone as far as we have in terms of being in the competition.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like I misspoke somewhat when I said knocked out.
It's just the first loser kind of thing, isn't it? When you
get involved in the comments, let us know. Can you be knocked out of a tournament if you get to the final or not? I'm sure that's the most burning question or issue on everyone's minds. Give us a like as well. Loads of people in the chat already, and we'll get to some chats shortly. Unfortunately, we're going to get straight into this. It was United players, one United player and one who's about to become a United player.
Are you already distancing Sancho from United, so you don't have to blame me for...
I saw
one United player and one Dortmund player.
Do you know why the reason I've done that is because I think it was like United's official Twitter who tweeted like pictures of Rashford and Shaw and Maguire and not Sancho. Because I thought, technicality, he's not a player, but... He is, for all intents and purposes, a United player, and I certainly feel like that. Sancho and Rashford obviously missed penalties. The sad thing about that is, and I don't know, Ronnie and Joe, whether you agree, is when Rashford missed, I knew what was going to happen on social media. It was going to be, he was going to get abused. Some of that abuse was going to be racist. And sure as the day's long, that's happened. Sancho's obviously got stick. Bukayo Saka, who also missed, has been getting stick. And it is sad to see, innit, really, that you almost...
Literal first thought.
I think you were tweeting about it, didn't you? I think you were tweeting about it before it happened. I think you called it like, this is what's going to come, and
people might see it as a like people accuse it of being a little bit like almost a grief fetish kind of thing, just tweeting before it happens. But it's not even that. It's just an expectation of what usually happens, especially where there's a little connotation sometimes when it comes to the England national team and the supporters that sometimes is issues when it comes to race and that kind of discrimination. It's one of them where I was watching a game and then I saw Rashford miss, I've seen Sancho miss, and then when Saka's missed, literally it was like a bulb gone off in my head. It was like, it's going to be a racial thing now. Like the black people are why we lost and this and that, and just that kind of, you can call it drunken because a lot of people are out on the lash doing all sorts. I saw a bunch of videos, I've seen violence, I've seen scary stuff. It was almost purge-like. And it's just, it's worrying, and it's just one of them where the fact that you do expect it is actually the scary thing, almost.
Yeah. No, go on.
It was one of those, the fact that your first thought after watching that as a black person is, I hope my fellow black people or any minorities or any of the sort, I don't get into technicalities of that, is just be safe and hopefully nothing happens and it blows over, and the fact that Saka and Rashford and Sancho, they get protected in some sort of way and they're not exposed to the type of hate and the stuff that they got almost immediately after they lost. And it just hit home because it hits home because it's just one of them, sometimes you experience racism growing up and you see it and you feel like the world's against you at times, and people call it a victimhood mentality, and you just moan and you just complaining, and you can't look at the sort of stuff that I said and things that are going on and just say, oh, you're just complaining, because if you do have that mentality towards racism, then you're very much part of the problem.
100%.
You know what I mean? So
100%.
Yeah,
I agree, because in 2012 when we got knocked out by Italy on penalties, it was Ashley Young and Ashley Cole who missed penalties and got racially abused and on social media, which by then had sort of become this thing that it perhaps wasn't in previous tournaments in terms of like Twitter especially. And 9 years later, we're still having these conversations, Joe, and almost that predictability about it all.
it's the thing that I tweeted, though. I tweeted straight away. It's if minorities or black people in this instance are beneficial, then that's when it's a we kind of thing. But as soon as they fail, it's a them. So
Do you think it's the same people, though? Do you think it's the same people who are, take the whole squad under the wing and, this is England's team, really liking, the most likeable squad in generations, everything that's been said? Do you think it's those same people that then decide, you know what, I don't mean that anymore, I'm going to go racially abuse someone? Or do you think it is different people, and it is, someone that maybe kept their mouth shut before who now can reveal their true self rather than real? Because in my head, the idea that you speak to someone and they'll be like, such a likeable team, and then that same person would go and do what we've seen on specifically Saka's Instagram is the one that I've seen the most. Yeah. A lot of love as well, but a lot of racial abuse. Do you think it's those same people, or do you think it's sort of one set of fans sort of rise up when the bad thing happens and then they can show themselves to be racist dickheads?
I've seen examples of them it being a combination of people just outright being racist, and then there's an example, I can't remember his name exactly, I shouldn't even have to say his name, where a couple of days before when Saka was playing really well, it was like, oh, this Saka lad's playing amazing, or BLM, all this virtue signalling kind of tweets, and then he's the same guy that after Saka missed said all these racial slurs about him, and
I just can't get my fucking head around at all. Like,
no.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Like,
it's crazy, innit? That's why I said it's just racists have this mentality, especially when it comes to England national side, of if they're playing really well and they're doing well for us, and they're all for inclusivity, but if they fail, they'll be the first to kind of show their true colours and then make an exclusive thing of us versus them. And that's an argument that's been made racially for a long time. That, for example, when it comes to sports and representation, because it's not even been that recent where black people have been more represented in terms of England, and for example, in all walks of sports. I remember like stuff that went on with John Barnes back in the day, and it's one of those where you look at it as if they will support you if you're doing something to benefit them, in terms of if Sterling scores a winning goals, you give England a European Cup title, they'll be all for it. But if he misses like he does, then it's the other way. You can't. It's just a win-win. It's not a win. I mean, it's like a lose-lose
Do you think part
situation.
of that played into? I mean, I don't know what was said in the huddle. I don't know who said what, but like rumours that Raheem Sterling didn't want to take a penalty. Do you think part of it was thinking, if I miss this, the backlash is going to be too much for me to handle? Do you think that crossed his mind, or do you think it was purely a footballing decision?
Could be footballing, could be a little bit of both. I think when it comes to England national side in general, regardless of race, I think there's so much pressure.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's half the reason why England haven't done well.
You make a good point there, because, I mean, especially from a United point of view, we've seen it in the past. I mean, racism is one thing, and I'm not going to part that. I'm not going to just dismiss that. We'll get back to that in a minute. But from a United point of view, over the years, we have seen players, black and white, targeted by the media and by rival fans off the back of England performances. The most sort of famous one, I think, is on the thumbnail, David Beckham on the burning effigy. Do you remember when, I think it was, forgive me if I'm getting it wrong in the newspaper, I think it was the Mirror, it might have been another paper, where they had a dartboard of David Beckham. I think we've got a picture of it. On his face after he got sent off against Argentina, literally saying, you can see that, throw darts at his face. Yeah. And you can see some of the other people they've got on there as well, like Jeremy Beadle and Stan Collymore. It's just ludicrous. But there was always that media thing and that whole fan culture thing of, if you're like, stand up if you hate Man U. You see that in England games, Gary Neville spoke about it. There was those types of things. So there's been that sort of element of not liking United when it was Ronaldo winking, Phil Neville giving away a penalty against Romania, I think it was it? Or David Beckham getting sent off. It's always been the go-to thing of blame the United players.
Do you know what that is? It's because of the argument of, usually they say a majority of the hardcore English fans, or the people that get involved in it the most in these kind of competitions, are supporters of smaller teams.
Like City and Liverpool.
or less so, because...
All right, really, like lot smaller teams.
Because they're not used to being able to...
All right, Arsenal.
Yeah, or Arsenal.
That makes sense.
Because they're not used to being able to support a team that has a chance of big
or even
success.
To cheer on, like,
or to cheer on.
players.
World-class players.
Me and you were talking the other day, weren't we? I think you made that point, because, I mean, I've only ever been to 2 England games in my life. One was, I can't remember, it was Belarus or somewhere at Wembley, and then I was over in South Africa for the England-Germany game, and it was pretty cringe for me. I was already in South Africa and that's where I went, but it was like people dressed in like army get up and as squadron leaders and all that, and carrying inflatable Spitfires and singing, no surrender to the Taliban and all that sort of stuff, which I found a bit odd as a football fan. It's like there was that. It seems
because even if that weren't weird and offensive and stupid, it's nothing to do with football.
Yeah, I was like, if you feel that passionately about fighting the Taliban, by all means go and join the army. Yeah. I don't see what us standing in the middle of Bloemfontein in South Africa watching a game of football has got to do with what's going on with the Taliban whatsoever. But it was that thing, and I was a bit like, what's going on here? But when I saw, the England fans, I said, wait, because I'm an England fan, took over like this whole sort of Riviera, if you can call it, in South Africa, and all the flags, like what you're saying there, were like, Rotherham and Millwall and, you know what I mean, like Leyton Orient or whatever. It seems to be a lot of smaller clubs.
That's generally what they say. So when you're a supporter of a club like United United, because that's where it starts in terms of most successes when it comes to English football and big clubs of the like. It's like you're not as excited by England and that kind of thing, because compared to the smaller club fans, they're not used to cheering on world-class players and that kind of success. And as you probably realise, supporting clubs like United, it seems like a full-time job almost. In terms of
money. If you're going away in Europe, which we've all done, and then at the end of it, there's a summer tournament somewhere. Have you got money to go and do that where you might not have? We'll get into some super chat because they're building up. Christian Shea says, unpopular opinion, glad England lost. A big core of United now lost 2 finals in pens in as many months. Make them really hate losing and light a fire under them to win a trophy or 2 this season. Fair enough.
Tough love that one.
Tough love, Christian Shea. Listen, I get it, and I get a lot of fans who are United fans, even English ones, don't support England, and I get a lot of fans from overseas don't care about England anyway. Anant Mokashi says, I was rooting for England, but after watching some videos of English fans kicking, punching and throwing racist abuse, glad that they lost. I mean...
that did happen, and I can understand that. But racism and abuse isn't exclusive to English fans by any means.
No, it's not.
Let's get one thing straight here as well.
We're playing a very equally racist nation.
I'm not condoning this, but if you want to say, for example, that Italy is a bastion of racial harmony, and that all those players have never got any history of doing anything where you can go, that's a bit racist, like when Bonucci or whoever was defending racist abuse to Moise Kean, then I think we need to sort of look at, the history
what
there.
they did was terrible, those fans and the
those
people
fans,
fighting,
I'm not defending
that.
It was
exclusive
disgusting.
to English fans
because I think most countries have got some history of that as well. Alfie Palmer says, can't believe Jay got it spot on. And no one can ever believe that. To be honest with you, with this, that's a revelation. With the scapegoats, Jayden and Marcus before it even happened. Yeah, a lot of us saw it coming. I think we all did. Stay at this country at times. Big up Marcus, Jayden and Saka. And you're right, listen, we're not Arsenal fans, but I do give Saka a lot of love and I do respect him. I thought he had a good tournament. Young lad, and I'm not going to be booing him when Arsenal come, and I hope United fans don't, because sometimes we see that when a player's missed a penalty or Beckham used to get booed, and there's that thing, and I'd love it if it came to Old Trafford and we didn't buy into that thing of singling him out because of what he did for England, because most United fans don't even give a toss.
No, they don't.
So why should
rivalry aside, we know Saka's a really good player. And that's why I've always said I really hope Saka does get like a move to a big club.
Yeah, well, he deserves one. Hopefully, he's put himself in the shop window with his performances in the Euros. Abdullah Ibrahim says, let's be honest, racism has become acceptable. We have elected people high up in government who will not condemn racism, but happily condemn those who stand up or take a knee. I hate to say it, I feel helpless. Sorry to hear that, Abdullah. I know what you mean when we see certain politicians saying
that helplessness, that is quite powerful, because that's generally what people assume as being a minority or being any ethnic minority, black, Asian, any of them. You have that little bit of helplessness when you come to, you think you can complain, you can moan, you can fight for some sort of equality, but at the end of the day, it's never going to be even. You can just try and bridge obstacles, you can get close as you can to it. It sounds a little bit defeatist, but in reality, this thing's never going to change, and it's too ingrained in Western culture in general.
I mean, I understand that. I understand that, and I can understand that, especially for young lads like yourself who've seen this constantly, and it's like, does it ever get better? It has got better since I was a kid. It has
got better.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying obviously we're sat here now, I'm 41 years old, I'm still talking about it, but when I was a kid in the 80s, it was a lot worse, and it was a lot more flagrant, and it's different now because a lot of it's on social media.
I wonder though, is it like, has it got better in terms of just being like kind of overt, covert kind of thing?
Okay,
Do you know what I mean?
Maybe it has.
But you'd rather it be like it is now than back then.
Yeah, I mean, still worry about my kids having to deal with this stuff, but I don't see them having, hopefully, to deal with some of the stuff I dealt with as a kid. But it's still there, and in other ways it's different because I didn't have social media when I was 15, 16.
Because when I'm
your age,
exactly. When I'm speaking about being open, for example, the last cup, the World Cup, a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly. That's how much I care about international football. But
2018, yeah, England did all right. We got to the semis.
They had people calling up on TalkSport saying, "Oh, I'm not supporting this English team," and was like, "Why?" And he said, "Oh, you just look at the team; it doesn't represent me."
Well, that's considering it represents pretty much every type of English person you could possibly have.
Who was it? Yeah, someone from Mars.
Yeah, like how can you look at that and go, "Well, it doesn't represent me because I'm not."
Literally the mindset of too many players of colour on the English side. It doesn't represent me.
If that's what you need to be represented, just, you know what? Don't watch England. Don't watch football. Just fuck off. Abhinav Verma says, I know this is serious, but just posting a light-hearted joke here. If the players play well, they're all for inclusivity, and if they miss, they get abused. These lot are nothing more than racist Mourinho's, he said there, but I think, racist morons, I think he's probably apt. Jeremy Young says, I called it as soon as Southgate hung them out to dry and subbed them with 2 minutes left in extra time. When he sat them on the bench almost all tournament, it's killed their confidence, then does that. I want to ask you about this. Peter Kelly also in the Super Chat, and then we'll get onto it. I really hoped England didn't win the Euros, but was gutted Rashford and Sancho missed. No surprise, them both coming off the bench cold. They both missed. All the blame for this loss is on Gareth Southgate. Yeah, just tactically, about the fact that they came on with, seconds almost to take that penalty. Do you think Southgate got that wrong just from a sort of tactical point of view? Should they have had a few more minutes? Or do you think that, he was right to try and sort of see the game out in the way he did?
What do you think, Jay?
I've not played football at the same level as you have, Ronaldo, so you'd probably know more about this than me. But in my head, I don't think it's... Obviously, now you can look back and say they missed, so there's a problem. And I think we can maybe move on to talking about putting Saka as his 5th penalty, his experience in that arena, his experience just of life. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. I can see an obvious and clear argument why Saka shouldn't have taken the 5th penalty. In terms of getting Rashford's a great penalty taker. Yeah. Someone who's done it in the biggest pressure scenarios you can possibly imagine. Scored in the World Cup.
Yeah, in penalty shootout.
Scored against PSG. He scored multiple penalty goals for United. And not just penalties, but huge pressure scenarios where he's scoring last-minute winners, the one against Wolves last season, to keep us top of the league or to keep us within touching distance of City. He's someone who takes on pressure and usually doesn't let it get to him. I don't know whether it was pressure that got to him, whether it was, a mixture of the size and the sort of the stature that Donnarumma has, where you think, I've got to get this right in the corner because if I don't, he'll save it. He's trying so hard to get it in the corner. He obviously kicks it 6 inches too far over, hits the post. Same with Sancho. I don't know what he's like at penalties, so I can't comment on that. But to me, bringing on someone who's obviously been good at penalties in the past in matches, can handle big pressure moments, and is clearly obviously good at them in training, otherwise they wouldn't have done that. I don't see a massive problem with that. Again, it didn't work out, so now we can criticise it if we want to, and I understand why you would. But to me, I don't think that was the worst decision in the world. Especially
was it not
if certain other players didn't want to.
That's the thing. The issue puts up people having people in the comments in it cold as in you're coming on and taking a penalty almost immediately, not giving him like 5 minutes just to run around.
But then who would we have taken off? Maybe we could have taken Sterling off if we knew he wasn't going to take one. Yeah. But I think Grealish was next on the list anyway, wasn't he?
We'll get to that actually. We'll get to that. We'll get to Jack Grealish in a minute.
5 strikers on the pitch because they're your best penalty takers.
Personally,
what do you think?
We found out that strikers didn't matter. Was it like 2 centre-halves took one for Italy and scored?
Harry Maguire's was the best penalty
I've ever seen.
Like, literally, he absolutely just smashed it, didn't it?
Sometimes you find that defenders and keepers or not attacking players, they generally will take good penalties because they've almost got that little bit of naivety. Yeah, where they just go up and hit it like the way Maguire did, or they're not thinking about it too much.
Some cojones,
or they're not going to be doing some skill. They're not going to be doing that's just to swing a leg and hope.
I mean, it was straight. It was like an arrow, straight into the stanchion. But it's funny you mentioned about Grealish because Roy Keane had a dig it in it at Grealish, saying, "I can't believe they've let Saka." Like Sterling and Grealish have let Saka to come up and take the penalty. They should have said. They should have said, hang on a minute, we'll take this. But Grealish has tweeted this. He's tweeted about that. You can see it on I think that's coming up on the screen. Yeah. He's basically sort of said that he wanted to take a penalty. That it wasn't a case of that he didn't want to take a penalty. He wanted to take one. and that the gaffer has made so many right decisions throughout this tournament, and he did tonight, but I won't have people say that I didn't want to take a penalty when I said I will. It's weird because, he's saying he wanted to take a penalty, and I was quite critical last night my main criticism of Southgate is I think he's done well, and I think, getting to the final, you can't dismiss that. I was just, in the sort of grand scheme of things of the tournament, I wanted to see more of Jadon Sancho. I was annoyed the fact that after that quarter-final performance against Ukraine, he only kicked the ball once after that, and that's for the penalty. I think that was just ridiculous, and I think, to me, he should have started over Saka for me.
I agree.
In the last 2 games. But I can sort of understand it if players are sort of saying, I want to take a penalty and trying to mix up a bit, because, when you look at it, I remember the Champions League final in 2008, Anderson, who just turned 20, his practically only kick of that game was the penalty. And he sort of...
Brilliant penalty.
It was a brilliant penalty. I mean, it's the first one in sudden death, to be fair. He wasn't in the first 5, I don't think, if memory serves. But he obviously wanted to take it. He was confident, and he smashed it. And he was a young player who, hadn't played a part at all in the game. He just came on for that. But it did seem a little bit like, why are you letting Saka take it? And why not Grealish or someone? But if they're saying they want to take it, and you've got to make a decision about who you're choosing out of everyone who wants to take it, then, what is the answer to that?
Well, back to what Joel said. Yeah. If personally, I wouldn't want to come on just to take a penalty. Think about the gravity of the situation anyway. Penalty shootouts are very pressurised, very psychological. But knowing that you've come on solely to take a penalty in a final, it increases the pressure a little bit. And I think that's what happened to them both. And
it happened to Jamie Carragher, didn't it? Do you remember in 2006 against Portugal? He got brought on to take a penalty, scored, he kicked it before the whistle, took it again and missed.
That's what I didn't... It's one of them, if they score, you'd be thinking, well played, Southgate. If they miss, you'd be crucifying them like you are. So everything's a little bit revisionist. But it's one of those where, personally, I wouldn't want to come on just to take a penalty, because I think the pressure is heightened a little bit more. You're not warmed into the game. You're not... It's almost... It seems unfair in hindsight because he did miss, which I do agree with, because I personally wouldn't want to be in their situation. I think having 5-10 minutes of football would have been better served, but he maybe didn't have the confidence in them being on, because he brought Rashford on right back, didn't he?
Yeah, Rashford went on for, was it for Trippier or something? And was like, for Kyle Walker, sorry.
With the way the game was going.
Yeah.
It seemed like if anyone was going to score.
A bit baffling, but for me, I know it's a fucking broken record, but the Sancho one could have been done earlier for me. It's just, I didn't even get
one of them. I think one of them could have been brought.
I don't even get the head.
He clearly doesn't fancy Sancho.
I don't think he does fancy him.
Look at the game in its entirety. He started the game with, if we're being honest, 2 out-and-out attackers in the whole 11. Sterling and Kane. So, and we've got away with, to be fair, his tactics were right in terms of Luke Shaw coming in as a left wing back and getting in on it. We've scored. And then in classic Southgate fashion, he's probably thought, I'm going to show up shop. I said straight away, I did tweet, if anything, we've scored too early. Italy are a good side. We've got too much of the game to go. I could picture England getting into a really low defensive block and inviting pressure, and Italy will have the quality to break us down eventually, because you can't do it for that long in a game. And I think if he was a little bit more adventurous and he put the likes of Sancho and Rashford on a bit earlier in the game, they can win you something. But I think he's one of those where he's more scared about conceding than wanting to go win the game and attack. And I think that's been to his detriment in the end, because in terms of attacking talent, I don't think England have had more depth than they do now. And I think it's a little bit of a waste. It looks good now because we scraped a few 1-0s, beat a really bad Ukraine team 4-0. You keep clean sheets, and then you get to the final, and then you kind of give the game away almost after scoring because you're a little bit defensive with it. That's how I see it anyway. I think
there's part of me though that thinks like, yes, we could have gone for it more. He could have put Rashford onto it, which I like seeing Rashford play, but he hasn't been in his best form for the past couple of months. If we're honest,
I love Marcus Rashford.
Yeah,
he's
hurt though. You wanted to rest him.
You're right.
But also, it's not a guarantee that, and I know I'm not saying you're saying this, but you see a lot of this, we threw it away, we should have done this, should have gone after him, but it's not a guarantee we would have won doing that. We could have just lost 3-1 doing that. Like, there is a possibility.
I think people respect that more, though.
I don't think they do.
Fans.
Do they? Did it losing 3-1, getting battered, being everyone just using the word naive all the time? I think there's part of it that I think the only way England could have got to the final, and this includes the Germany match and the Denmark match, but especially the Germany match, is by playing defensively. I don't think we could have got to the final by attacking because our midfield isn't good enough. So if we're just attacking, Rice and Phillips are good when they're sat in front of a defence that's 18, 20 yards out. But when the ball's being played through them, Germany did it about 3 times in the first 10 minutes. When we're trying to hold the ball and a good midfield gets hold of it, they can pass through Rice and Phillips easily. And I just worry that if we'd have gone at this any other way or tried to be really attacking, then really defensive, then really... I know we did 5 at the back, 4 at the back, but we maintained that sort of defensive solidity before all else, regardless of the formation. If we'd have tried to either change it up all the time or just be all-out attack, I don't even think we would have got to the final. Yeah. Personally, I mean, obviously I don't know. It could have happened. And it's always nice to see teams go for it, get all the youngsters on this great attacking talent. But there's part of me that thinks we lost it on one kick of a ball at the very possible final moment you can possibly lose a game. I don't think it's necessarily certain that we would have even got that far if we'd have just gone for it. Because you never know. I know, but it's a bit of a sort of defensive mentality. But I just think the fact that we got to the final when we haven't got to a final in so long suggests to me the thing that was different is what got us there. And what was different is, for once, England were good defensively.
Just a couple of super chats as well. The Francie Brady says, so sad to hear Ronaldo saying it will never get better. It will, man. Yeah. Keep the faith. Much love
I didn't exactly
from
say
let me finish the super chat. All right, Stephen Alson. Much love from Ireland. That's all he was saying. So a bit of love there before you interrupted me.
Sorry about that.
Yasash Akaria says, Keane criticised Sterling and Grealish for not taking a penalty before Saka. In 08, Giggs, Hargreaves and others took theirs before Anderson. No, Giggs was the last penalty taker in 08. But I think I understand where you're coming from, that other players stepped up earlier. It's such a weird one with penalties. Who wants to take one? Who's better at taking them? Who feels confident? Who just doesn't? Do you know what I mean? Who's giving you the vibe of, like, I'm up for this one? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Throw me in. Who's sort of hiding in the background going, I hope you don't notice me. You can pick holes. I think someone was saying, Jack Grealish hasn't taken a penalty for 2 years. Harry Maguire, has he even taken a penalty in top-level football before as a professional? I don't know. Let us know in the chat if he has. He hasn't yet. He took the best penalty ever.
And that's what penalty shootouts are like. You're not going to have, most likely, unless it's like Portugal or whatever, you're not going to have 5, potentially 6, 7, 8 players who have been taking penalties their whole career.
No.
Because that's not how teams are built. It's the chances of that are so slim. You're going to have probably 2 really good penalty takers, which I would say in the England team is Kane and Rashford. They're probably the best 2 penalty takers consistently over their career. And then after that, you're going to have people who've been taking a shitload of penalties in training, people who've taken a couple here or there, people who might have taken one at another penalty shootout. You're not going to have a team full of professional penalty takers, because who has that? Portugal have got Ronaldo and Bruno. But that's even just having 2 is a very unlikely scenario.
Even like, as we all know as United fans, even Ronnie can miss a penalty in a shootout.
Yes, and penalty shootouts are going to be players who don't take many penalties taking penalties.
No, but like, he's not didn't he miss it for Madrid as well once?
Yeah.
Like, he's missed penalties.
If you take that many, you are going to miss a couple.
He's taking like 150 penalties.
Yeah, I know he scores like the vast majority of it. So it isn't, no matter what, you can always sort of pick holes in it and say that, we should have done this, should have done that. Caleb D. Turley says the biggest mistake was England come out to dominate and after scoring let off the gas. How often did teams even hold on to a 1-0 lead for 88 minutes? That's what you were saying.
Difficult.
Abhinav Verma says Southgate lost the match when he didn't make the attacking changes in normal time. England's mindset was completely negative and that played a part. Don't want to keep going on and on about England.
Yeah, no, I was going to say,
I know the chats.
Just one little thing before we go,
because I do want to move on, but I appreciate people who are coming in the super chats. And the sort of thing we were getting at with the thumbnail and the thing we were discussing about as well is, we've seen it with Beckham, we've seen it with Ronaldo, we've seen it with with Phil Neville. United fans tend to rally around our players for England when they've had a bit of stick, and I fully expect us all to do that with the likes of Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho when they come back to Old Trafford, especially for that first game against Leeds. I know Marcus might not be fit, but certainly Sancho should be there. I fully expect Old Trafford to get behind them and show them that they are loved.
And just one final point that I think is worth mentioning.
Yep.
The examples of abuse and shit and, not racial abuse in the instance of Beckham and that, but it's just way over the top, threatening, hanging in pictures and we
had that on the thumbnail. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That was pushed and published by the media.
Yeah.
Certainly the dartboard.
Yeah.
One good thing to mention from this, from what I've seen, all of the newspapers today are get behind people, positive messages. Generally, I'm sure the post-mortem will come along the rest of the week and then we'll find the villain. But so far, the media seem to be slightly kinder to these players than they have been in the past, which is somewhat of an improvement, if nothing else. And obviously, the stuff going on social media is a completely different thing. But the media do seem to be slightly more kind to these players so far, at least.
Yeah, we've had I know we don't speak for all the media, but all three of us have interviewed a lot of journalists on this channel.
Yeah.
Spoke to them. A lot of them are passionate. They are England fans, a lot of them as well. And, I'd like to think of them as decent human beings, and they can see the human element of it. You can see when you've got a teenager there who's heartbroken, who's played very well in this tournament and been thrown in against expectations. No one thought Saka was going to be a starter for so many games, and he was, and he did himself proud. So I think if you are going to single him out, you're just going to make yourself like a complete dickhead.
Yeah.
Because, he's had a good tournament and done well, and I think, likes of Jack Seed and Sancho and Marcus Rashford. Rashford, needs an operation. He's there for a reason. Sancho did very well in the Ukraine game. So, you can't sort of be too harsh on these guys. Just on the grander scheme of things, on the tournament, I'll start with you, Joe. If you had to pick a team in the tournament, some people were saying that Paul Pogba, for example, will be in that. Do you think he's had a good tournament?
Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And that goal that he scored, it looked like, obviously, was it 3-1 up they went with that goal?
Yeah.
They were through. They're going to be playing in the quarterfinals, and then they ended up losing. He was excellent. A lot of the Italian players obviously were great, but in terms of, United, like you mentioned before, Shaw, arguably England's best player, Maguire, arguably England's best player. I think them two and Sterling were probably, England's best three players, which is great to see because both of them are sort of point-to-prove players, certainly across England rather than just United fans. Maguire obviously with his price tag, Shaw with his up and downs with injury and managers and all sorts. So it's great to see that. I think even someone like Diogo Dalot sort of didn't do that much, but did a bit more than people thought he would.
Shout out.
Playing at all, coming on, playing in that game where Portugal were knocked out, but played pretty well. Bruno's the one maybe downside for United players who it just didn't get going really, and even
leggy though, didn't he?
even though he wasn't as bad as people were making out, he didn't end the tournament with people going bloody hell, hasn't he been amazing? No. But yeah, Pogba brilliant, Shaw and Maguire both brilliant. Rashford didn't really get a chance, but I think overall for United, it's a pretty good tournament.
So you're not actually giving your full 11 to United?
Okay, I ain't got a full 11.
No, I don't expect you to go full 11. I'm not even interested in that, if I'm being honest. I just want to know what you think about United lot. It's interesting with Shaw Maguire because the similarities, and I know we use this word a lot, well I do anyway, but like almost like a redemption of sorts. You look at last summer with Harry Maguire getting himself in a pickle in Mykonos. Looks at like one point like he could even go to jail. And it's like, oh my God, given that interview where he's obviously it got to him, his form at the beginning of the season wasn't great. He's now arguably one of the most, if not the most, highly thought of centre-back on the planet, or one of them. Do you know what I mean? He's up there with your Van Dijks and Bonucci's and all the others. I think everyone sort of reveres him because of the tournament he's had. Luke Shaw...
How mad is that? He was
but he is like... People might go and he's not as good as those players I mentioned, but he's up there with them. If you were to name your top 5 centre-backs in the world...
Diaz got exposed 3-4 times. Maguire didn't even... No one went past him. No one won ahead of... Like, it was just impossibly good.
Do you know what might have been... something that we've been calling for as United fans, and I think this is quite a big point. Maguire looked as good as he did and as brilliant as he did next to Kyle Walker in that back three.
Pace.
And it's showed us what we've said. If you get someone alongside Harry Maguire with a little bit of pace and power, Maguire turns into an absolute monster.
But even like...
I think that is what we need at United itself. And I think... I know footballers... He knows secretly whether he thinks Lindelof's up to it or Axel's up to it or Baye's up to it in his head. And he'll go into games with partnerships thinking he's got to do more in certain areas that he might not want to or be comfortable with because he doesn't have the complete trust in his partner. So I think it's a situation where if you get someone that he does trust and believe in and he can play comfortably and can play his game, you can see that he's one of the best centre-halves in the world. And I think when he plays with the likes of Lindelof and that, he might get caught once or twice. And I think it's because sometimes he feels like he has to overcompensate a little bit because he's literally the best centre-half we have.
I just feel like... I feel we have seen these performances from Harry Maguire for United. I do. I don't think this is anything new. I think it's just on a bigger scale because more people have seen it that don't watch Harry Maguire week in, week out. So I don't think he's kicked on. I think we've seen this for months, if not years, from Harry Maguire, going back to his Leicester days. I do. I genuinely think he's one of the, I know it sounds ridiculous, one of the most underrated players we've got, because people got 80 million quid. No player's worth 80 million quid, so let's just get that straight. Yeah. Oh, he's not as good as Van Dijk. Van Dijk was a phenomenon at Liverpool, and also was in a team that was one player away from winning everything, and he was that player. Maguire wasn't in a team that was one defender away from winning a lot at all. So, for me, I think Harry Maguire has been putting in these performances. Yeah. No, I just think he's getting noticed more now.
He's getting noticed more, but after what I said, he did have a very strong end to the season.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time at the beginning of the season, like I mentioned, after the summer, where he wasn't great. And you look at some of the results, the 6-1 against Spurs, I know it's not all his fault, but there were games where you're like, Jesus, what is going on here? But I think, for the first season we had him, the end of his season, last season at Leicester, and certainly the last sort of 6 months before his injury, a few months before his injury, I think he's been fantastic.
Not to do this as a pat myself on the back thing, but just as a reference for a timeline. Many times on the reviews after the games, me and you have been chatting about how good Maguire's been. Like, that's been going on for months. Like you said, he's been excellent. And I agree sometimes with you, Ronaldo, that
I know what you mean.
He does that thing where he's like, I think he used to do it with Shaw last season, where he's covered Shaw's position a lot because he thought Shaw's not getting back. Luke Shaw's done much better at getting back in recent months as well, which has helped Maguire. But I definitely think sometimes he thinks he has to cover himself and Lindelof, like he did. Remember the Tottenham goal at the start of the season, where he basically pushed Lindelof out of the way? Was it Lindelof he pushed, or was it Shaw? He pushed one of them out of the way basically, and the ball would have hit him, and the ball ends up going in. But in his head, he's going, "You can't deal with this. Fuck off. Let me do it."
Yeah.
You need someone who he looks along the side, looks next to, whether that be Stones or Walker or both.
He's confident and he's got belief in who he's playing alongside. Because I know I said Kyle Walker. People might say he played on the left side. It wasn't anywhere near him.
There was times when it just him and Stones, but I know.
I'm particularly talking about the couple of times where it was back three and Kyle Walker was in it, and I've seen sometimes teams got him behind and. Kyle Walker was covering runs.
It's like that when he was alongside Eric Bailly, and we've done it. And I've praised Eric Bailly, and Eric Bailly's great and all this other stuff. But Harry Maguire's been good alongside Eric Bailly. He's been good alongside Lindelof. Also, if you look at all the big results United or the big games United, most of them we've had a clean sheet. The problem has been scoring goals, against the likes of City, against the likes of Liverpool, against the likes of Chelsea, 0-0s. Arsenal, 0-0s.
It was
against Harry Maguire's fault.
Against big teams, it was because we had problems scoring goals, but in general in the season we didn't. We had probably one of the best attacking outputs in Europe.
No, but I mean, like defensively, when you look at those games, you can't really go, "Oh, it's Harry Maguire's fault that we haven't got 3 points."
Because one of the big criticisms we had this season was we aren't beating the big teams, but that wasn't the defence's fault. Generally speaking, we were excellent defensively in those games. I think both at the same time.
Personally, I don't think we had an amazing season defensively. I think towards the end we did, but when you look at the stats, the goals conceded, we averaged way over a goal conceded.
You saw it as soon as he got injured.
Too much.
The amount we missed him. Do you know what I mean? You can lose an Eric Bailly, you can lose a Victor Lindelof, you lose a Harry Maguire, then you're in all sorts of trouble.
I still don't think we would have lost I don't think Villarreal would have scored that goal if it was
100%. In a super chat, Aaron Dixon says, "Don't let this distract us from the fact the 2 keepers who gave us sleepless nights in 2016, Heaton and Grant, are now both at the club 5 years later." Yashas Akaria says,
"Love to have Grant's job though." Jesus Christ.
Virgil van
Dijk, thank you. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking Rafael van der Vaart. Brain freeze. No, it is Van der Vaart. It is Virgil van Dijk. He's the best, no doubt, but he still has Fabinho, Henderson, and Wijnaldum to protect him. Maguire is good, but sometimes he gets exposed.
And Alisson behind him.
To no CDM. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment as well. Anthony Gertson says, if you start with a 5 at the back, you have to play a fully attack-minded front 3. I think that's going on to the England game as well. Also, Lance Noir says, going again, talking about England, says Mason Mounts, these are the reasons I think he's saying that we got knocked out, England got knocked out, or England lost, I should say, in the final. Lance Mounts says, Mason Mounts ineffectiveness, 3 centre-backs versus 1 striker, only bringing on Sancho and Rashford for pens, picking Saka to take first professional penalty kick. So we'll move on from England. And we mentioned the fact that Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, both had good tournaments. Looking forward as well to seeing.
And so did Pogba. Don't forget him.
Paul Pogba, just on the Paul Pogba front. I had this in my news this morning, and I think we can expect a lot of this from now until January, unless he signs a deal. is, apparently United have named a price tag for Paul Pogba, roughly around half what we paid for him, so 44 million or something, or up to 50 million. He's been linked with PSG, he's been linked with Juve, there's been slight stories, shall we say, with some sort of swap deal with Real Madrid, although I don't know how much truth is in that. Joe, I'll start with you with that one. Paul Pogba saga, which has been going on since 2011. How do you see it all ending?
If he's not going to sign a new deal, get rid of him.
Yeah.
I think he's not the most important player in our squad anymore. He might be the most talented player. On his day, he can win us a game, definitely. We saw that with the West Ham game, and then was it the Brighton game as well? I can't remember. But certainly the West Ham game, and the spell just before he got injured. I think he got 2 or 3 goals in about a month that won us a couple of games.
Yeah, there was Fulham.
He can do that. But he isn't the most important player in the team. And you take him out, and we don't lose as much as we do if we lose, Rashford or Bruno or Maguire or, and I think that we've moved on a little bit since he came in. And also, like, at some point, you can't just... It just isn't healthy for everyone to have Raiola chatting shit all the time, to have this story, that story, the next thing. Whether it's his fault or not, it is happening around him, and it has been since basically he arrived at United. So maybe it's his fault, maybe it isn't, but at some point you can't get rid of Raiola. We can't get rid of Raiola. But if we can get rid of Pogba. And, if it means bringing someone else in to replace him that could maybe do more of the job we need. Because let's not forget as well with Pogba, when he plays at the minute, it means Marcus Rashford plays on the right.
Yeah,
and that is not ideal for anyone.
No.
And Rashford ain't going anywhere.
No.
Rashford is not leaving Manchester United. So that doesn't make sense. So
the reason why Pogba had to play left wing to get in the side is because we couldn't play without 2 DMs.
Yeah, I know that. I know that's also a problem.
Because obviously McTominay and Fred as a pair, as much as some people might love him, it's not a great pairing. It's an incompetent pairing, and it's one of those where you need both of them to make up one. So that's why they both got to play.
No, I get that.
So that's why Pogba can't play alongside either.
So
that's why you got to get, if you get someone like Pogba in the side who's a bit of a luxury player, he's got world class moments in him. You've had to play him left wing, and you couldn't play him number 10 because of how Bruno's been performing since he's come to United as well. So it's one of them. If you can't find a place for him, I personally believe now that we've signed Sancho and then Rashford would probably play left wing. Pogba's not going to be able to play midfield alongside Fred and McTominay because they aren't good enough. If United don't get a DM or a CDM of note, then
where does Pogba fit in? Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think he's got a massive headache there because, like you say, he's been juggling it about a little bit. There's times when he's even played Pogba almost alongside either McTominay or Fred, but he likes to play them two together. And as you've said, you move Marcus anywhere from off the left, I don't think you get the best out of him at all. Surav Mukherjee, forgive me if I butchered that one, says, Andy in Talk Sports said before the Euros that we must not repent for not using players. Sancho and Rashford had big season ahead. They both need to rub this off at earliest. 2 key players for us. Glory, glory, Man United. Hopefully they will rub it off. Miles Van Eaton says, Mino has been dealing with PSG in getting Donnarumma, and the smoke around them wanting Pogba has started billowing. Coincidence? Joe incidents?
I think the Donnarumma thing and Pogba thing are coincidences. But I don't think it's coincidence that Raiola wants his player to move. He just does it all the time. Just a twat.
Do you remember before the Leipzig game? It's all quiet. We need to win this game, otherwise, we're out of the Champions League. We need to not lose this game. We're out of the Champions League. And he gives an interview that's embargoed till the day of the game that goes, basically, Pogba's off and Solskjaer doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah. And you're like, why now? Why not wait 2 days for that? Just causing shit for no reason. It's really annoying.
Shall we do a Wally of the Week, Jess?
Yes, go on. We'll do a Wally of the Week. Go on, I'll start with you. Who's your Wally of the Week?
Wally of the Week?
Yeah, it does what it says on the tin. Who's someone who's, been a Wally?
Racist England fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that,
always will be the case, isn't it?
Do you know what? The amount of hypocrisy as well. And you know what? I'm going to go differently. I'm going to go these politicians that we've seen a few things going around about digging out Marcus saying he needs to focus on penalties, not politics. If you did your fucking job, he wouldn't need to feed starving kids. So you can jog on with that one. Go on, who's yours?
It's a similar thread. Social media companies for not doing more to crack down on accounts.
It's hard to police it.
Do you know what, though?
It is hard to police it.
Do you know what?
You
make a point, though, because I tweeted a video of Harry Maguire's penalty that's been taken down, and there's racist tweets still up.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? You can get rid of them at the video, but you can't sort the racism out.
Also, it's easy to just if someone's tweeting a monkey emoji under some, let's have that in the category of this needs reviewing immediately, and then we'll take it from there. Like, there's so many things that they could be doing better than they are. Just allowing that sort of stuff to grow and to find a home is shit. And they've got so much power and so much influence over society in general. They need to have a better job of policing that, I think.
100% agree. Just before we go, Ian Walker in the super chat says, do you think we'll buy a proper CDM? Then we could play Van der Beek as a number 8 to replace Pogba.
No, I don't think we will.
We'll buy one quickly.
I don't think so.
Right, okay. There you go.
It's one of them, like,
you've had the...
can't believe in him.
Ronaldo's had the final word there, and I kind of agree with him, unfortunately. Thanks for everyone who got involved in the chat, got involved in the comments. Don't forget as well to hit like, share, and also subscribe and hit the notification bell on the subscribe, so you will get a notification when we go live, as we will be doing. You're going live tonight,
We're going live tonight, yeah. We've got an update on the Rafael Varane story coming from Sky Sports, so plenty to look forward to tonight. 9:30.
My favourite player.
Stretford Paddock.
Who is it? Is it you two?
No, it's me and Jordan tonight.
Oh, him and Jordan, so make sure you're checking that out. Yep. That's been Ronaldo Brown. You know where to find him all over the socials. Ronaldo 93.
93.
Is that not you? 98. Sorry.
It's a good 5 years.
Joe 93 in it.
Don't accelerate my
Joe
age.
Smith 93, Ronaldo 98, and J Marty without any numbers. This has been Paddock Podcast. Thanks for watching.